Hi, I'm Taylor Bybee from Coaster Studios, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Hi, I'm Tracy Lystra with Saving Huey Foundation, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Hey, this is Scott Schaefer from Upstart Media, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Hi, this is Fernie
and Dee
from Kidult TV, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Hi, I'm Brad Rex, the former Vice President for Disney's Epcot theme park, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Hi there, I'm Lee Cockerell. I'm the former Executive Vice President of Walt Disney World, and Mickey Mouse was my boss. And you're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Walt Disney World is a tribute to the philosophy and the life of Walter Elias Disney, and to the talents, the dedication, and the loyalty of the entire Disney organization that made Walt Disney's dream come true. May Walt Disney World bring joy and inspiration and new knowledge to all who come to this happy place. A magic kingdom where the young at heart of all ages can laugh and play and learn together. Dedicated this 25th day of October, 1971.
I accept the Coaster Challenge.
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 Do you accept the Coaster Challenge?
What is the Coaster Challenge? A group of regular people that went from fearful to fearless, all from riding roller coasters. So please secure your hats and glasses. It's time to take the Coaster Challenge. Here are your hosts, David Cantu and Jenna Gazelle.
Hey, how's it going, Jenna?
Good, Dave. How's it going?
It's going good, going good. Welcome back. What a way to come back right before our season finale.
You know, with everything going on out there, you have to take precautions.
Well, it's great to have you back, and what a way to basically kick off our season finale here on the Coaster Challenge podcast. It's been an incredible season, huh?
Very much so. A lot of ups, a lot of downs, a lot of changes.
I will tell you that I just gotta say, I am just blown away by just all the guests that we've had on this first season. I will tell you guys, just like last week, to kick off the month of March and to kick off our season finale, we really have got one incredible guest last week. We had the one and only Brad Rex, the former vice president of Walt Disney World's Epcot. We've got a very, very special treat for all you guys here today. It's a great honor because we've got a former Walt Disney World vice president, of operations. We got the Lee Cockerell right here on the show today with Andrew and Ivah. Isn't that amazing?
It's beyond words. Like seeing all these high administrators coming towards our podcast and just being able to interview them and hearing their backstories and where they started. It's amazing what you learn.
Yeah, and Lee has got one heck of a career story for everybody out there today. We all had an opportunity to sit down with Lee recently, and even back in when the podcast team was out in Florida, I mean, we had Andrew, Ivah, and I had an opportunity to sit down and have breakfast with Lee, and just really amazing guy, really down to earth, and he's definitely a true underdog story here. Like you mentioned when we were off the air, Jen, he is somebody who started from the ground and worked his way up.
I would say more than ground. I mean, he came from nothingness and has made himself into something.
Yeah, and all because he just had a can-do attitude, very positive attitude. I mean, Lee has got his leadership philosophy is just truly outstanding. It's something that I myself, when I was in high school, I was in the business academy, and I was part of Leadership Burbank here in our local community. What Lee has philosophy about leadership is just truly amazing. He also, now that he's retired, he travels all around the world, and he gives incredible speeches about how to be a great leader and what does it take to be able to move up in the world, especially if you don't have a college degree. I mean, let's face it, folks, there's a lot of people, especially in our country, there's people out there that don't have a college degree. They don't have the luxury of going to college. Lee really shows that even without a college degree, you could still move up in the world.
Right. I mean, his story, he's kind of the jack of all trades, but a master of none.
Yeah.
Like, that's what his story reminds me of. He can do anything, he can learn anything, but he is not a master of anything, too.
Yeah. It's just, you guys, there's this, Andrew and Ivah just are here with Lee today. Lee's here in the house, and he's got quite a story to share with all of you today. We want here at the podcast, want to share with you guys some really awesome clip of Lee when he was speaking at the Happy Conference many years ago, and he had just gave out this incredible philosophy of leadership. So take a listen.
Lee ran this and Lee ran that. And I tell people the truth since I retired. I didn't know what was going on half the time. And I was the boss. And frankly, most bosses don't know what's going on. And you know that. Right? Because you can't. The world is too complex. There's too much going on. And the first lesson I'll tell you this morning is you don't need to know everything that's going on. You need to decide where you're going to spend your time and how you're going to make a difference. And then you need to surround yourself by experts in IT, finance, human resources, strategy, marketing, sales. It takes real expertise today. And one person cannot be an expert in everything. What you're trying to do is make sure that everybody in your business matters and they know they matter. You think it's important to know you matter in life? Does anybody think it's important to know you matter? It's the number one thing people want in the world is to know they matter, that they're respected, that they are somebody. And the number one way you make sure people know they matter? Tell them. Simple thing. Use your lips, not text them. Not send them an email, not write it in the sky. Tell them, I can go in there and make it better, or I can go in there and make it worse. And you have to decide. So you got to think. I'm going to walk in now, and I'm the leader. I'm responsible. I have to behave myself. I have to create a culture where everybody feels good about themselves. I have to pay attention to every person, because that's what leaders do. It's like paying attention to each of your children, not just one or two. And make it, when you go in, the culture gets better. Over time, it gets better and better and better and better. Remember, everyone is important. So how do you know that? How do you send that message to your people? Number one, get to know all of your employees better. Get to know their aspirations. Get to know what they're trying to achieve. Get to know their family. Get to know more about them every time you come in contact with them. Get to make sure you know their first and last name. Break the mold. Got to be better every day. How are you going to be better this time next year? How? The only way you're going to get better, you got to really talk to your customers and you got to talk to your employees. And they will help you, and it's for free. And once they trust you, they'll tell you the truth. And when they tell you the truth, you can make the right decisions, because if you don't know the truth, we'll talk about that in a minute, you can't do it. See yourself as a teacher, not as the boss. When you start teaching, that's one of my theories in life. First, learn it, then do it, and then teach it. Learn something, then start doing it to get experience, and then teach it. Learning's good. You go to college, great, you learn. Now you got to go do it, experience. And then you need to teach others. Because the main job of a leader is to create more leaders. Second thing we're looking for is a can-do attitude, not a can't-do attitude. Do you know anybody in your life that has a can't-do attitude? It's never their fault. They always have an excuse for everything. And the can-do people who have no excuses, they get it done because they're wired that way. Get people to feel so comfortable they know you will not bite them when they tell you something you do not want to hear. And by the way, they know. The person cleaning the bathroom knows more about cleaning the bathroom than you'll ever know in your whole life. They know how long it takes. Maybe it takes 12 minutes, but they take 30 minutes. It's a little easier. Make sure you know, because when you know, you can set the standards. When you know, you get better advice. Appreciation, recognition, and encouragement. This is the fuel that drives human performance. Make sure you're giving it out every day to people who deserve it, and most of the people in your business deserve it, and if they don't deserve it, you should get rid of them. If you want to be a great leader, a great parent, be careful what you say and do, because they're watching, and they're getting their lead from you. Be careful what you say. Be careful about inappropriate comments. Be careful what you do. Be careful about the jokes. Be careful about how you treat people. Be careful what you say and do. Your reputation's on the line every day. And what you teach your employees, they teach the new employees, and your behavior teaches the new employees, and your role modeling teaches the new employees, and they teach the next group, and you will even improve their families. By teaching them the right things at work will improve their family life. And you really got to think about, are you going to go out in the world now? Are you going to go out and leave a legacy with your family, with your employees, with your country, with your community, with your place of worship? Are you going to leave a legacy? Or are you just going to be one of these people that had a job, didn't do anything, and nobody even cares? Try to go leave a legacy. You can do it. I hope this was helpful to you. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Hello, Coaster Challenge listeners. This is Andrew.
And Ivah.
The co-producers of the podcast. For today's episode, we are going to learn from our very special guest how he has spread his intuition through the Disney organization by creating his own magic. Please welcome to the podcast, Lee Cockerell.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Thank you, Lee. Good to have you.
So, Lee, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience working within the theme park industry?
Yeah, well, I just kind of fell into it. Give you a little background. I grew up in Oklahoma on a farm. That was scary enough. We had a dairy farm. We were very poor. We didn't even have no indoor plumbing. And I tell my grandkids that, they think I'm lying. When you're a kid, that's the way it is. Nothing bothers kids if you don't know any different. And we had fun, my brother and I. My mother, on the other hand, was not happy. She was married 5 times. She was kind of busy. I've been adopted twice. I got my name Cockerell when I was 16 by husband number 4. And I always tell people, I'm totally normal. So, that may scare you. Yeah, and my mother cared about us, and I know, but she had lots of issues and grew up in a dysfunctional family herself. And my brother and I did okay, but husband number 4 had money. She started making better choices, so I got to go to college. I went to Oklahoma State for 2 years, and I only had one problem. I forgot to go to class, so I promptly flunked out. Went in the Army in 1964. When I got out of the Army eventually, I met a guy there, and he said, "You want to go to Washington, D.C. with me?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." He said, "I'll get you a job at the Washington Hilton. It's opening in 2 weeks." And that was it was going to open March 15, 1965. So we headed I'd never been out of Oklahoma in my whole life. I was 20. Never been anywhere. Nowhere. Got my car in Oklahoma, and we drove to Washington, D.C., and we got a room at the Marriott over in Virginia, which was $8 a night. And they had drive-in registration. This was the new thing. You didn't have to get out of your car. We went over to the Washington Hilton next day, and I got a job as a banquet waiter. I'd never been in a hotel. I knew nothing about the hotel business. God knows why they hired me, but they did. I was lucky. A guy took me by the hand and started teaching me the business, a real professional from Germany. And he somehow liked me and started showing me, and I was totally intimidated. All these professional people. I'd never seen a linen napkin before. I said, I knew my grandmother had some, but we never used them. Yeah, and I slowly learned the business. So I was a waiter for about 2 years, and then I got into a management training program. And I tell everybody, the main reason I got in there is because I have a good attitude. And when you don't have a college degree, having a good attitude helps a lot. So, yeah, and I'm very organized, very disciplined. I really have an ability to keep my promises and do things. And I think bosses like both of those things. And so I got in that. I met my wife at the hotel. We've been married 53 years, and she said she's going to stay. So I know I'm doing better. I stayed there for Washington Hilton for a couple of years, and then I got transferred to the Conrad Hilton in Chicago, a big hotel there. I spent about 1.5 years there. We had a baby. We moved to New York. I got transferred there to the Waldorf Astoria. We lived in Queens and almost starved to death while I had to look really professional when I went in every day. So I remember my wife, I gave her $5 every morning. That was for everything. And that was for including getting my shirts done, which in those days was 35 cents to get your shirts done. And so I had to really look good. Stayed there for about 3 years. And then I got promoted to assistant manager of a hotel for Hilton up in Tarrytown, New York, by the Tappan Zee Bridge. And then from there, I went to Los Angeles as the head of food and beverage operations for the Los Angeles Hilton. There, I had a boss. I was working 6 days a week. I hated him and he hated me. Took a job in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and doubled my salary, making $30,000, and I got fired after 90 days. Now, the scary part was I had a 2-year-old, no job, a wife, a Volkswagen, and the sheriff confiscated our furniture because we broke the apartment lease. Now I don't have any furniture. I don't have any job. And it took me 3 months. I finally got a job with Marriott. I stayed at Marriott 17 years, became the vice president of food and beverage operations for the planning department of that worldwide because I had specialized in food and beverage. I became really an expert in it. I've been in accounting, I've been a waiter, I've been a cook, I had done all these things. And people eventually don't worry about whether you have a degree. It's when your performance was really good. It's amazing. I stayed with Marriott for 17 years and I got recruited by Disney in 1990 to go to France and open all the restaurants there. And my wife made me go because she wanted to live in France. Part I didn't tell you is when I met her, she had a French boyfriend. Took about a year to get rid of him. It was hard. She liked him a lot, but we got him out of the picture. We lived in France for 3 years, and then I was asked to come to Orlando. I'd never worked in Orlando before to be the head of the hotel division there. And I did that for 2 years, and then I was promoted to all operations at Walt Disney World and I did that for about 10 years. People always ask me, what goals did you have? I didn't have any. My only goal was to not get people to figure out I didn't know what I was doing. Then I figured out nobody in the world knows what they're doing, so I was in good company. So I just got smarter and better and better and better, and I really became a good administrator. I became a good manager. It took me a few years before I started to understand that I needed to also be a good leader. I could get things done, but I left a lot of bodies in the early days. My nickname was Doberman, which is now today I'm a Cocker Spaniel. So I've really gotten better. So that's how I did. I fell into it. I liked it. I guess that was the reason I stuck with it. I liked it. It was fun, especially when you're 20 and you're working in a hotel, and after you get off work, everybody goes out together. And hotels are, there's a lot going on in hotels. 20, you have a lot of fun. So that's how I did it. I'm glad I did it. And actually, my grandson is leaving Friday for France to go to the Institut Paul Bocuse in Lyon, France. He's going to go in the hotel business, and his middle name is Lee. So we're on the right track.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Lee, you brought up there about, not having a college degree and, college not being right for you and just moving on and developing your career in spite of that. And, I think that's a really good point there. So I've known several people in my life. I do have a college degree, and a lot of people do, but some people don't, and they're very successful. And, some people, college isn't right for them, studying or tests. They're not good at tests. I've known people that are engineers that, technically they're in careers that require, quote unquote, college degrees, but they kind of find their way in, like you did, into these management roles or engineering roles or whatnot without a college degree, and they are successful. And why? Just like it's the same thing with them as it is with you. And I love it. It's along the lines of the mission of our podcast. Positive attitude. Positive attitude can be a huge secret to success. So
it really is. It is probably the most important thing, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, it's fascinating how exciting of a life you had just from the very beginning.
Yeah, I mean, growing up on a farm, you learn a lot. I mean, you work. I mean, I had to milk a cow when I was in third grade every morning. I had to have white overalls on, sold it to the neighbors across the street. We sat on a hay baler every summer on our grandfather's farm and baled that hay and put it away. We didn't call it work. We didn't know you had a choice. It was just what you do on a farm. Everybody's got something to do, and you got to do it. And you got to do it every day. You got to be reliable. I think that helped my time management. You got to do what you say you're going to do. The cows don't enjoy you missing the milking. They're kind of ready to get rid of that load. It's a whole different life. There's a lot of discipline around it because that's your livestock and you've got to do it. I never thought about it like that until I got into business. That's where I learned a lot of my discipline was that it started early in my life. That's just what you do.
Well, yeah, because like you said, it wasn't a job. It was expected of you because as a farmer, you were expected to take care of the cows. And, if you didn't take care of them, then I'm sure you weren't able to sell the milk to help provide for the family then.
That was our only income was that dairy. Now, I didn't understand that. I had no idea how much milk we sold, or it was good lessons. And dealing with animals is a whole different ballgame in life. Actually, they behave better than humans.
Yes.
I think I'd rather have a dog than most of the people I have to work with sometimes.
I can relate to that.
They're more trainable, and they like you. They like you.
Or loyal and love. Yeah, they're unconditional love. Yeah.
But y'all were talking about being afraid of things, and I think growing up on a farm, you're not afraid of too many things because you've seen it all. I had a skunk that sprayed me. We had snakes. We had, you name it, out there in Oklahoma. It was like, these are all natural things that would come creeping around.
So Lee, why don't we start with some questions about you in the theme park industry. So what was your first theme park attraction that you remember experiencing?
Probably, most of them were, maybe I spent a lot of time in Fantasyland because I had 3 little grandchildren. Buzz Lightyear was one that these kids just, like, we couldn't get enough of it. We had to do it over and over and over and over again. So that was fun. And that was one where they had competition. You could shoot the gun and make points, and they liked to beat me. And it was just, and we'd do it over and over. So I think that was one. Sometimes it's who you're with that, and then when my granddaughter was with us, we had to go shopping a lot in Fantasyland and buy pink things and meet the princesses. She was really happy to see the princesses, but when we met them, she couldn't speak. She was so nervous.
Starstruck.
Those are all things I think about. Tower of Terror, my grandson wouldn't go on it. He was terrified until they had a birthday party there, and his friends kind of shamed him into going, and then he loved it. And the Rock and Roller Coaster, I think, is one that I really loved because of how quickly it took off, the projection. It was 1 minute of terror. Yeah, some of those. And I didn't know much about theme parks before I joined Disney. We went to Disneyland in 1973 when our son was 2 years old. Frankly, over the years, we were struggling financially. And my wife, I saw somebody post today, how many houses have you lived in? It said the average person lives in, I don't know, somebody said 5 or 6 or 7. I've lived in 25 different houses. Wow. We moved 11 times in my career, and we liked everywhere we went. We lived in Chicago and Paris, and what's not to like? My wife, that's probably half the battle. She's a saint. She goes, and her dad was an admiral in the Navy, so I think she's moved 25 times, 12 with him and 11 with me. So we can get out of town pretty quick if things get bad.
So Lee, you were executive vice president in charge of operations at Disney World, right?
Yeah.
What year did you start in that role?
I was head of operations from 93 to 97, and 97 to 06. I was in that role. Yeah.
I see.
Well, Lee, so what's the one theme park attraction in your life that scared you the most?
Not so much any attraction scared me. You know what dubious about was going down those slides at Blizzard Beach. I just had this feeling of flying out of the thing and not being stopped. I'd never done that before, but I had to do it because everybody was watching me. You're in charge. You have to take your life in your own hands, I think, sometimes to prove it. But the actual attractions, not so much. I must say, the first time Rock and Roller Coaster, when it took off, I was going, wow. I had no idea that it could accelerate at that speed. I tried to go around and do every one of them at least once. Grandkids became more brave than me, so I couldn't be chicken in front of them. So I had to do some things. And my wife doesn't want to go on any of that stuff. But I'm with you. Heights, I don't particularly care for either. I guess it's, everything's hard before it's easy. Once you get used to anything, it's like public speaking. When I was terrified of public speaking when I was second year college, and professor said, you got to give a speech tomorrow. And I went over to administration and dropped the course. I couldn't do it. I was totally terrified. Now today I make a living doing it. You just got to push yourself through it sometimes. And if it's hard, you probably ought to do it. Get over it. And that's hard. It's easy to say that. Just go ahead and do it. And things that make me more scared is like if somebody said, pick up that snake, it won't bite you. I don't think so. Or a dog that's chained up. I don't.
So it sounds like the water slides at Blizzard Beach, they were kind of the scared you the most of any kind of like a theme park or park type attraction.
Yeah, I'd never done that. Went up to the top and the top and the top and the top, and now it's your turn to go.
You're talking about the I forget the name of it, but the one that's the tall one that's really steep. Okay, yeah. That's intense.
A lot of people get up to some of those and can't do it. They have to go back down. Like they can't bring themselves to do that. I mean, there's a lot of people get off rides at Disney too. When they get on, they make a decision. No, I can't do this. Let me off here.
Well, look at David. He did that How Long for California Screaming, and he finally got the courage to ride it. So, exactly. I mean, he chickened out how many times?
What do you think drove him to finally say yes?
I think peer pressure, psychology, and so forth. People, we are resistant to change. And, but sometimes we have those moments, those fleeting moments.
What really led me to finally do it is my best friend challenged me when him and I were there that weekend. And I said, good luck. You're not going to get me on that thing. And he goes, what is so wrong with that coaster that you're afraid to get on? And I said, that loop is what scares me the most and how it launches. I go, I've never been on a coaster that launches that fast. The steep hills I see on the coaster. He turned around and he said, well, I challenge you to do it. Well, what was running through my mind was I went through a very difficult year. I've had a lot of challenges hit my life up to that year. I felt like I needed to let something out, but I wanted to do it in a healthy way. And I thought, well, screaming it out on a coaster is a healthy way to let out frustrations and pressures and stuff that you've had built up in your whole life. What do I got to lose? So I was just ready. I was like, you know what, challenge accepted, let's go. And he put me on the back train of that coaster, which after getting on that, I was nervous. I mean, I was shaking, I was sweating. We're in the launch path of California Screaming, and we got delayed on that platform because we didn't launch right away. So we're sitting there for a little bit. And that anticipation when you're sitting there waiting, you're like, can we get going already? I'm waiting for Neil Patrick Harris to start the countdown. And then all of a sudden he did the countdown unexpected and we took off, and I screamed like the little girl, panicked on the drops. I closed my eyes during the loop. But when I got off that ride, I put my arm around my best friend's neck. He thought I was going to choke him to death. And I said, let's do it again. And we rode it 3 times. So it wasn't really peer pressure. At a point in my life, I was tired of being afraid. I was tired of all the stress and pressures I had on me. And I guess there comes a time in your life, you're like, you know what? Why am I going through this? It's time to start doing something bold, and it's time to push yourself to do a little more. And I was just ready to let's do this. And I'm glad I made that choice because it really changed my life to where we are all right here, right now, doing this podcast. So
maybe that rush, the adrenaline went to your brain and made a permanent change.
Yeah.
I think that happens, and as you talk about anxiety and depression are at an all-time high around the world right now, in America too. And you see this happening. People don't even want to go outside. They don't want to go to the grocery store. They don't want to do anything. And people have really gotten stuck in their own minds about some danger that's probably not really there. And I think a lot of encouragement needed often to get people to come to reality. That's interesting psychologically. I mean, that.
The other thing I think I'll tell you is that in my life, I've gone through depression 3 times in my life. And I will tell you, depression is a very powerful thing. There's a time where I was in total shutdown. I stayed in bed for like 2 days and I just did not want to get up because I was going through a very difficult challenge, personal problem with family. It was powerful. And I don't know, I cannot explain it, but I was able to pick myself back up and say, this is not you. You are better than this. And I was just thinking back to my Boy Scout training and all the stuff, all the mentors that I've had in my life, friends that have come and been very supportive. But I will say depression comes and goes. I'll be depressed for a period of time, and then all of a sudden my spirits are back up and I'm going again. And then all of a sudden you sink back down into this depression. So it's like a roller coaster. It's like up and down, up and down. So it's like, it's an endless battle for those out there that are suffering depression, that you just got to keep positive and you just got to think of the positive things and just not think of the negative stuff. That, I guess that's been my treatment, is that I just think positive and just going to the theme parks, riding roller coasters, being with friends like Ivah and Andrew. And I've got so many coaster enthusiast friends now all over the country that I'm thanking them so much for their friendship. That's what's been helping me move forward. And doing this mission, doing this podcast has given me something in life. Like, I want to leave a mark in this world. This is what I'm going to do.
I believe that. We get reports while I was at Disney. children who are autistic. Their parents would tell us, and we kept records and sent them to the National Institute of Health. Every time they came to Disney, their son got better. We had a family that sold their home in New York and moved to Orlando. Every time, and the one ride was the music and the sounds. It was Jungle Cruise. She said every time he rode that, he got better, and then actually spoke one day. And I don't know what it is. We see that happen fairly frequently. Give kids the world. 80% of kids who are terminally ill want to go to Disney. A bunch of them survive. This adrenaline thing that something happens. And it's amazing. The stories I've heard over the years and I'm sure it's everything, the music, the lights, the fantasy.
Now, Lee, let's get back to, you were talking about how you were afraid of the water slide at Blizzard Beach, which it's actually called Summit Plummet. It's 12 stories high. Mm-hmm. How were you feeling as you were approaching the top of that slide?
I was trying to look composed because everybody was watching me, which was even more pressure. Maybe if nobody I knew had been there, it might not have been as bad, but I probably wouldn't even gone. I would have gone back down the ladder. And I was in charge of operations. And so, I'm thinking, okay, I knew I had to do it no matter, even if I was going to die, I would have had to go ahead and do it. I mean, there's no turning back because, ego and not wanting to be embarrassed, and especially in those jobs. So it seemed like something could go wrong. And I think the problem is, and I've kind of learned this to understand, your brain lies to you. Things are 99% of the problems you worry about are never going to happen, but your brain lies to you for many reasons. Maybe something happened when you were a little kid and it's stored up there, or maybe, who knows, you're being programmed your whole life and something triggers.
So yeah, Lee, what you mentioned about the brain, 99% of the time, it's telling us things that aren't going to happen and aren't true. And mental illness is the most common illness on this planet, not the common cold, even though it's called the common cold. Mental illness is the most common thing. The fight or flight mechanism is what you're talking about there with the brain. And the natural thing to do, again, just like I said earlier, the natural thing for humans is to resist change. By resisting change, you're sticking with what you're used to, which you more or less know the outcome of that. Well, with fight or flight in general, I think it's an instinctive thing with human beings going back thousands of years to the caveman days where we didn't have shelter and guns and weapons. But there were a lot of wild animals out there, even scarier ones we have now. A lot of them gone extinct. And so human beings were much less likely to survive and much shorter lives back then as well, also with illnesses and so forth. So I think we were been programmed, genetically thousands of years ago to run away. And so, in the modern world where we can be a lot safer for the most part, we can choose to fight and have usually more enriched lives, but it's not natural, right. And that's what this podcast is all about, how we are naturally and how we tend to be, and we tend to, fear to let consume us, and depression and anxiety. And our mission, and, we talk to, smart people like you that have been through a lot in their lives, as I was going through the interview with you here, to try to give people tips. Each person has a different idea of how we can choose fight over flight.
But what's really interesting though, is, you said that you were scared of Summit Plummet, but yet you were in control of going on it. You did not have to go drop 12 stories high. You chose to do that. So you were very much in control.
Probably somebody like you talked me into something I didn't want to be talked into. I know more about it now. The one thing I worry about, maybe David does too, I know I'm susceptible to it.
I have to agree with you, Lee. I just turned 40 this year in May. It's funny because I started looking back, like past life, like how I've been doing, where I'm at today. But I also think a lot about the future. My parents are up in age, and I'm sitting there wondering, like, how much time do I have left with them? Are there things that I need to do to make sure I spend as much time with my mom and dad? I have nieces and nephews. They're getting older. I mean, my gosh, my twin nephews are now in middle school, and my youngest niece has started kindergarten. And I was like, oh my God, time is really flying. And then I'm sitting there looking like, what else do I need to do in my life? What's on my bucket list to accomplish? Since heights have been brought up quite well, and Andrew and Ivah know where I'm going to. So like I said, I did something big for my 40th birthday just to show how much roller coasters and theme parks have changed me. I kicked off my 40th birthday jumping off the stratosphere doing the sky jump. And Yeah, and that was an
better man than
experience.
Yeah, well, there you know, it's the same old story. Everybody finds a way to get through the obstacles in their life. You know, I talk about obstacles. That's even when we hire people, we're looking for people who can handle obstacles, because that's all you deal with from the time you wake up to you 24 hours a day. You have obstacles, being disappointed, people not doing what they're, I mean, it's unbelievable. You know, dealing with that and getting used to, they're going to come whether you like it or not. And 9/11 was a big one. Recessions are big ones. People getting laid off never ends. David's right. The more you face up to it, the easier it is to work your way through them. Somebody said the other day, one thing about life, it just keeps going. It just keeps going along. It doesn't care what happens to you. Yeah, it just keeps on going.
I think the worst thing is when life throws you an obstacle and you're not expecting it, like when you're on vacation at Walt Disney World. And that's why you have such wonderfully trained people that you hired to help people along with their issues that have suddenly come up.
Want to know the secret to Disney?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
There's three things Disney does better. And I say my new jingle is hire them right, train them right, and treat them right. They will perform. And that, if everybody could start to learn that, hire people right, get the right people with the right attitude, passion and attitude, and then train them so they really don't have any confidence problems. They go out and do their job, and then treat them right. Nobody's going to be committed to you unless you treat them right. One thing I've learned is there's no upside to not treating people right. There's no upside. You lose every time you try to demean somebody, yell at them, raise their voice. And that's all insecurity. People who are insecure do that. And that's a good lesson for all of us, that why are you doing this? There's no upside. You know, treat people well. Don't treat them badly. And we could all be nicer. All of us.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Very much agreed.
My granddaughter told me that, by the way. I said, what's the most important thing in service? I was writing a book, The Customer Rules. She said, well, Pappy, the first rule is be nice. Kind of true. Just be nice.
Kindness goes a long way.
Yep.
It does.
Now, obviously, when you started working at Walt Disney World, that was the first time you'd really been in a theme park setting, Lee. So how have theme parks had a significant positive impact on you in any way?
The major impact it had is I learned how important it was to all of our guests. I mean, we have guests, grandparents, parents, kids coming together over every 3 years. The average guest comes to Disney with their family. The ones that come have been there before. 80% of the people every day have been there before. It's an amazing thing to watch. I mean, my favorite thing to do is go out and just watch people watching the parade, the excitement. You know, those are the kinds of things that I had no idea. People got so committed. A lot of special things happen, a lot of tears, a lot of laughing, and they want that again. We all want that.
When my father passed away several years ago, the one place that I actually went right up to was, I live an hour and 20 minutes away from Cedar Point. And I escaped my feelings by surrounding myself with all the positivity that other families were enjoying their day at Cedar Point. And I bawled like a baby that day.
Well, people tell us they go to Disney just to be around people. Sometimes they don't ride anything. They just go in the park and they sit, watch and have lunch. And I think that's true. Same old story. People want to be with people.
I've gone to the parks and not gone on a single ride.
Have you been able to experience all the Walt Disney World attractions then, Lee, when you were managing the park?
Oh yeah, I schedule 4 or 5 hours a week to be in the park. One week I did Magic Kingdom for 4 or 5 hours, and then next week so that I could, and I took my grandkids so that I could experience it with them because they were little. Like they told me that children's meals were terrible. And you know, everybody has a different perspective, from women, kids. To learn those is really important because if the kids are happy, the parents are happy. Yeah, I had one guy said, I hate Disney. I said, well, he was from New York. I said, why? He said, I don't like these lines and lines, but if my kids are happy when we leave, I'm happy. I got it. You know, I got it. Yeah.
Now, with you being in the theme park industry all that time, I'm sure you have a crazy moment that you can share with us.
I have probably a few. I had a guy who called me one day and said, he told me the monorail is down. I can't believe you haven't done anything about it. And I couldn't believe it. What? And I got on the phone and I called and I said, I'll call you right back. And the monorail was running. I called him back and I said, I just checked and it's running. He said, no, I don't mean the monorail you get on. I mean that monorail you buy in a box. I bought one for my grandson, took it to Germany where he's living with his parents, and the thing doesn't work. I mean, this went on. And he said, then I called the number where you call when you got a problem at Disney. And the voicemail said, we're not open right now. We've gone to lunch. A lot of things changed after I dealt with him. We don't go to lunch anymore. We have somebody answer the phone no matter when. But I learned so much because the guest was not happy. 9/11 was probably my proudest day, even though it was the worst day. We evacuated those parks in 90 minutes. We had everybody back to their resorts. We evacuated 75,000 people. We gave them free phone calls around the world. We gave them free rooms because a lot of them couldn't leave. A lot of them's credit cards were maxed out. We took care of their meals. We spent a few million that day, and everybody came back in the morning. We had a system for returning. We still get comments about that. At that point, there's nothing I could do. We had done a good job training, hiring people. They all stepped up and did their job.
You know, you talk about your cast members rising to the occasion. When times are at their worst, people oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes are at their best. And in 9/11, that's what we saw, this tragedy, awful, the worst terrorist attack in the history of mankind. And what came out of it, there were some amazing things that came out of it. People just doing things, your cast members, they hadn't dealt with that before. And look at how they rose to the occasion. Lee, tell me something, aside from 9/11, talk about some of the challenges you faced, you know, in management there in the theme park industry, working at Disney World as you worked your way up.
Yeah, so people ask me, what was the hardest thing you had to do at Disney? I said, the hardest thing is getting, at that time, 50,000 people to behave and be ethical and honest and not tell inappropriate jokes and, bigotry and racism that we, I don't know if you are, but I would say to the cast members, but you better keep quiet because that's not the kind of place we have. And people misbehave and get in trouble. It's always people problems. It's always people issues. You know, the rides are no big deal. You fix them and they go again. People, I mean, I tell everybody I work with today, technicalities are not going to be your problem. It's the people who are going to disappoint you or not show up and not do what they're supposed to do, people who are stealing from you and people, I mean, all these things. That was making sure everybody didn't think they were a big deal who were in leadership jobs. I put in one of my books, when you become a big deal, don't. Nobody wants to go around being a big deal. And there's a lot of CEOs, a lot of high-level management today around there. They think they're hot stuff. And once you think you are hot stuff, you're on the head. You're heading downhill. So you're the only one that thinks that. Those are the kind of things: attitude, culture, treating people right, making sure that we kept reinforcing that all the time. That everybody matters here. Everybody's got an opportunity to get ahead. I don't care if you speak English or not. In 5 years, you will, because we give professors there to teach you, and you'll be a manager. Those kind of, the culture is the name of the game. And that's why the guests love coming here, is because everybody takes care of them, like no matter what. That was the issue. And our cast does an incredible job.
They do.
They know they're putting on a show. It's a Broadway hit show every single day. And even if they had an argument with their boyfriend or they don't feel well, they still come in, they go on stage and they do their job. We talk about professionalism. And it's something you got to decide what you're going to be, not just what you're going to do. Are you going to be that person? Are you going to be the person who can do that? And it's hard staying in role all day.
Right. It's tiring, I'm sure. Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. So, Lee, one of the things you mentioned there may seem insignificant. It relates to customer service. What we're talking about here is what Disney providing amazing customer service. And again, you were a manager there, leading the whole operations for years at the world's largest theme park resort, and Disney's largest, of course, here at Walt Disney World. Yeah. So I was wondering if that was related to your leadership consulting, but yeah.
No, but the point is anybody can do it if you want to.
If you want to, right.
Hire the right people, train the right people, and treat the people. And, one of the things I talk about today is one of the problems that happens out in business is you got to be more clear with your expectations for attitude and performance. The biggest problem we have in life is not being clear. There's a misunderstanding. You didn't say that. Clarity. And you know who's the most clear people in the world? Mothers are clear.
Yeah.
They use empathy and discipline, and they'll use them both on you because they care about you.
Right.
I said, anytime you're in doubt, just manage like a mother.
Yeah, because they know they have to take charge and they've got their kids to, take care of and protect from. Yeah. I've got a couple more questions to ask you. So tell me about your favorite moment working in the theme park industry. Picture what that was, or pinpoint what that was.
You have a lot of the same sessions. So I would say one was when we lowered the flag. There was a gentleman picked to be the person that day as we lowered the flag, and we gave it to him. And his daughter told me, she said, "Did you see what he did?" And I said, "No." She said, "He's got many scars on his head from being in war." And she said, "This is the first time I've ever seen him in his life take his hat off." As they brought it down, played the music.
Right.
Those are the kind of things that you just don't think about. Those kind of moments you don't forget them. And you don't run into those kind of moments.
No, that's a very special moment. That's awesome.
And we did it for many veterans coming back. It was really an amazing way to recognize them, and they were so proud of and putting them in the parade. The family, you've just made their life nothing. You could do nothing more for them. They're so happy. People can really be happy at Disney. I mean, really happy. Even old grumpy people get happy there. It's an amazing environment. They weren't happy when they got there, and it is a special medicine. It works. And you talk about psychology. I mean, it works.
It's theme park therapy. It's theme park therapist, we call it. So the last main question I'd like to ask you here, Lee, and again, thank you for your time. The audience for our podcast, it's a very varied audience. We have people all over the country, all over the world listening, but we do know that we have a number of fans of our mission and listeners of this podcast that are younger coaster enthusiasts and theme park enthusiasts. We're talking teenagers and even younger. A lot of them are interested in getting into the field, like yourself, working in the theme park industry like you did for years. And I know that you have, of course, your own consulting business and so forth, leadership, and like the Disney Great Leadership Strategy program. How do you think that program could help, say, these younger people these listeners that are real big fans of theme parks and roller coasters? And how do you think it could help them get into the industry and work in the industry?
I get the best education you can, even though if you do it yourself, really love it and get interested in it. One lady told me, "I want to work for Disney." I said, "Well, move to Orlando and get your foot in the door, start getting experience, learn the business, be in it where you have guests, you have cast members, and you have responsibility for profit and costs and that sort of thing." On the other hand, I tell them they ought to listen to my podcast. They're free. There's 400 episodes on there. And we talk about everything: customer service, leadership, management, culture. We talk about anxiety, depression. We talk about obstacles you're going to run into, how to overcome them. They ought to listen to one every day, and they will know more. That's what I tell you. You just got to know more if you want to be more. And you got to know more if you want to do more. And you got to apply yourself. And this is an easy way. Podcasts are really a strong way to learn. I mean, they're a big part of what's going on in the world for corporate communication. I would say they need to get into it, start learning, listening. If they want to go to school later and get a business degree or something, I would start learning everything you can. Just start putting it away. That's how I got ahead, basically, when I started going to seminars and I started listening to tapes back then, cassette tapes, and reading and getting different experiences. So when I was a waiter, I also worked in outside catering. Then I got in a French restaurant, and then I got into the accounting department. I made $80 a week. It paid nothing. That's why I had to work as a waiter at night. Let me tell you, get the experience.
Right.
People today, 16-year-olds ought to be working, learning how to be on time to work with other people, get along, be flexible. College kids ask me, "How can I have a great career like you did?" And I said, well, the main thing is you got to be better than everybody else. When you go to work, you got to stand out. You got to be there, raise your hand when they want something. They want you to work overnight, 2 shifts. Yeah, no problem. It's not that hard. A lot of people are not even trying. It's not hard to be great, but you got to want to be great.
You have to have the desire, the ambition. Absolutely.
They will do fine. This industry is going to just continue to skyrocket. People are going on vacations. It's got an unlimited potential for somebody to have a nice career.
Lee, obviously you have had so much life experience and not only so much life experience, but so much experience in this industry that we all love so much, in the theme park industry. You admitted yourself that you weren't a great leader to begin with and made some mistakes, but you learned from those mistakes and became a great leader to the point where you're teaching people how to be leaders now here in your retirement. But if you could share with our listeners how they can find your podcast, your website, any social media you might have where they can learn more from you?
If they just go to my website, leecockerell.com, everything's there. They can look at my Cockerell Academy, which is now we've developed we're creating courses for universities online. 8 courses on there, from time management to customer service to leadership to how to make better decisions. My podcast is on there. You can just go right there and start listening to them. So it's very popular. We're about to hit 3 million downloads any day. And
wow.
You have no excuse today, young people, for not knowing something you want to know. You either listen to a podcast or you go on Google. If you don't know something and 5 minutes later you don't know, that would be your fault. What we don't know is amazing. Once you get an appetite for learning, there's news articles out there every day about management, about leadership, it's unlimited. You don't have to carry your Encyclopedia Britannica around with you, because you can learn and you can become an expert in something fairly quickly. And
self-taught.
Why I say I'm an expert in time management. I say because I know more about it than you do.
Well, it sounds like
go get it. It's at your fingertip.
It sounds like a good place for people to start, along the lines of the internet is as you said, your website and your podcast is there. Lee, it's been a great conversation. Ivah and I really appreciate talking to us today, taking the time to talk to us and share with our listeners your stories of how you rose up into the theme parks and worked for the most renowned theme park organization and company in the world. The Disney parks are incredible, and Walt Disney World is the king of them, as so size wise. Thank you so much for your time.
And for David, by the way, what we just did is uplifting. That's why it can really help people that get online, talk to people. I mean, if we were together, great, but this works. And and I'm glad to see all of us depressed people are better tonight.
Absolutely. Amen to that.
Yeah, and let's anytime you need help or talk to somebody, I talk to a few people and I say, call me and we talk. It just makes you feel better. You got to find people to talk to, and don't be afraid to talk about it. When you let everybody know what you're going through, it's even easier. You don't have to hide it. You don't have to act like everything's great. Thanks for having me, and I'll wait.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Lee. Appreciate it.
Thank you again, Lee, for your time.
Thank you, Evan. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Ivah. And thank you, Lee. Lee, that was such an incredible story. Wouldn't you say, Jen?
It's not just incredible, but it's inspirational. And that's what a lot of Disney is it's inspiration for people that don't get that inspiration.
Yeah.
And I think that he really did kind of take what Walt Disney himself was trying to implement in his company, and he took that and he ran with it.
Yeah, I would have to say that he really showed to me that in order to help people, in order to lead people, you gotta help people. So basically, you need to be in the front lines and do what regular people do on a regular basis before you can lead people. I just think that that's just a good philosophy, because there's a lot of people out there, they just go straight into leadership, and then, like he said, they become a Doberman. And I guess in this philosophy, you need to become a Cocker Spaniel, like Lee said, because you got to be open-minded. You've got to get to know people. Not just get to know your customers, but get to know your workers. If you get to know them, you build a relationship with them, you earn their trust, then they will come and tell you the truth, like he said. It's just common sense to me. I mean, what about your thoughts?
For me, it's more of, if you get to know your employees, you create a better work environment, because then it's showing, whoever the head person is taking that initiative to sit there and say, hi, I know your name, I know who you are, I know what your background is, I know what your inspirations are, what can I do to help you? Versus I don't have time for this, we're not friends, we're not nothing, you're my employee, and that's it.
Yeah, and I know, especially people who are out there listening, I know that we have all, in our lives, whatever jobs or careers we have gone through, I guarantee you, we have ran into somebody out there, somebody who's a supervisor, manager, even a business owner. They have that can't-do attitude, and they just act like you're just a worker, you don't matter, I'm paying you to do a job, just do it. My philosophy, and as a business owner, I'm also a manager, I've been an HR manager for many years, is that like I said, you have to have that relationship with your employees. You got to make it a family environment where you feel like they belong. There are many, and employees do this too, especially in the retail sector. It's there's people in depending on the store or company you work for. I remember one time I worked for a retailer. A lot of the employees in the store, they just didn't make me feel welcome. They didn't make me feel like I was welcome into their store to work. And I think this is mainly because I was a hard worker. You know, I was paid to do a job and I would go above and beyond and just do the job. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing absolutely wrong of being able to go above and beyond and just show people you love your job. There's just people out there that don't get that, and so they would rather try to tear you down to their level so that way you don't shine, you don't stand out with management.
What I found was that management just never really encouraged anything. They never said, like, you are important, you are, the backbone of this. If we didn't have you, this business wouldn't survive. They kind of had that attitude of, you can be replaced. There's somebody else out there that can replace you. And it's like, that's the wrong attitude. Like, if you're wanting a business to succeed for as long as it can, your attitude has to change with, you're replaceable. It's, you matter. You are what brings us our customers. You're the ones that are in the front lines greeting our customers every day. And to have the attitude of like, you can be replaced, that is the wrong attitude.
Exactly.
And I've seen that time and time again throughout my work history. I've been in retail, I've been in caregiving, now I work in the school district. It's always kind of comes around to the same thing of like, you get into a company or anything and it's just like, nobody wants to take the time to really show you around or to explain anything. It's just like, here you go.
Exactly.
Okay, goodbye.
Yeah.
And it's like, where's my training? What am I supposed to be doing? And they don't want to take the time.
Exactly. I would tell anybody out there who's listening right now, if you know somebody who has a can't-do attitude, I highly advise you to share with them this episode because they need to hear Lee's speech. In fact, his highlight clip that we did in the episode, it will be in our show notes down below where you can be able to click the YouTube link of Lee's speech. And then I would recommend you guys to share that to other leaders out there because they really need to hear Lee's philosophy of leadership. It's just, I think more and more people just need to hear that and listen and hopefully learn from it too in the long run. Well, guys, I can just say, I cannot tell you how much I really appreciate you guys taking the time this season to listen to all our episodes. It's been one heck of a season. On behalf of the entire Coaster Challenge podcast team, I can't thank you enough for your love and support this first season. We just got an incredible second season coming up in April. Right, Jen?
It's been a roller coaster of a season. I can't wait to see what next season brings us.
Oh, we've got a lot of exciting VIP guests. We've already got interviews already done, and we're already going to be getting season 2 rolling here, guys. But yes, we are going to take a small little spring break, but we are going to be doing a very special anniversary episode on April 8th, so you guys might want to tune into that. Also, if you're on our social media pages, we just did a post that we're asking people if you have questions for the entire podcast team. We would love to answer them in that anniversary special, but we're going to have everybody all together on that day, discuss and do highlights of season 1 and talk about the good times, the bad times, the craziest times, and some of the best moments of season 1. We hope you'll tune in. But first, if you guys aren't on our social media feeds to catch the questions, Justin, how can they find us on social media?
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And if you want to see more from us, we upload every Friday. And check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all at Coaster Challenge. Links in the description.
Thank you, Justin. And yes, guys, don't forget to hit the subscribe buttons on all our social media feeds, and make sure to give us a thumbs up and give us a positive review on your favorite podcast network, especially if you are an Apple Podcast user. We really would appreciate you guys to leave us a review. That's pretty much it for season 1. Cannot thank you guys enough, but you know what? Season 2 is around the corner. Till then, this is David Cantu.
This is Jenna Gazelle.
Thank you guys so much for helping us have an incredible first season. We will see you in season 2 right here on Coaster Challenge.
Woohoo!